Hello, welcome back. In today's tutorial, we're going to be doing some data analysis with Python and Excel. Now, if you're Microsoft Excel 365 subscription holder, you will have Python and Excel. Now, when this first came out in beta, probably sometime in 2024, not everyone got this. And then it didn't show up in my subscription until much later. And I noticed that it came in a few months ago, which is now, this is May 2025 when I'm recording this. So if you go up to Formulas bar, and then you'll see this group area over here with his Python. So when you have this, you'll be able to use this within Excel. So first thing is, if you're familiar with Python code, if you're a Python developer, then a lot of this will make sense to you. But anyways, when you're writing Python script in whatever IDE environment that you use by choice, I just use Jupyter Notebooks. When you start your Python script, you have to import the necessary libraries to access certain functions and methods to do that. And what Excel does is, if you click on this initialization here, you'll see over to the right, you'll see a pane that the following import statements are preloaded for you. So right now, you don't have to use a separate command within Excel that states, okay, let's import this library. Now, if you're accessing other libraries, that's a different story. But for right now, these are the pre-imported or preloaded libraries that come with Python and Excel. Okay, that's number one. Number two is when you're getting ready to enter a command, a Python command, you have to basically select a cell, and in this case, click on Insert Python. What it does is add Python formulas to your worksheet. Now, there's a couple ways you could do this. You could do the Insert Python here, and watch what happens over here. I'm selecting a cell over here to the right. Watch what happens to the formula bar when I do that. So what that does is it tells you that we're entering in Python code right here into this cell. And once you're in this area here, you can start writing your Python code. And then another way to do it, I'm just going to press escape out of there. Let's close out of this pane. Another way to do this is by pressing equal PY, and then you have to tab into it. So now you're ready to enter your Python code here. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a data frame. Basically, a data frame in Python equals your data set in Excel, your data range, basically. And I'm going to read in this data range, which I pre-formatted as an Excel table already. It doesn't have to be a table. I just preferred to do this for this tutorial. But anyways, what you want to do is I'm going to create a variable that holds the data frame. So later on, when we do this data analysis questions, all I have to do is type in my data frame variable that holds the data frame, and I can reference it that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to name it df for data frame equal, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my data and watch what happens to the Python formula. So I'm going to come over here and select my data. Give it a second so it recognizes it right there. And I want to do a click twice. So it first click selects your data range. The second click selects your headers with it. So it creates this formula up here. XL function, what this does in Excel, it tells the Excel to read in your data into Python, okay? And this first argument to this Excel function is basically what is the range of data that you want to read into Python. In this case, I'm selecting my table range, okay, which is a structured reference. You could also select individual cell ranges or an individual cell that you could also select for this Excel function. The second argument just basically tells Python that whatever range that you're selecting, you're telling it to read in the headers. In this case, I do have headers for these columns here. So that's what that is. Now, right now I'm in the formula bar, so I'm going to just press enter, nothing else, because I want to add in multiple lines of Python code before I commit it. So my next line of code is I want to do it, I'm referencing the data frame. As you can see here, I'm referencing this data frame. Excel automatically with IntelliSense automatically recognizes the fact I created this variable. That's why it comes up here. So I'm going to press dot and then head. Okay, and as you can see, IntelliSense automatically comes up with a list of choices for you. In this case, I'm using head right here, and as you can see over here, you have a cube icon. What this means that when you have a cube icon, you have to follow it, with parentheses, okay? And now I want to commit this Python code. In order to do that, I have to press Control Enter and watch what happens to the cell over here towards the right once I do that. And it initially says busy, okay? So I'm going to collapse this here. And what Excel does, it automatically returns a Python object by default. Okay, so if I click on here, you'll see that it brought back the first 5 rows and it brought back basically all the column headers and then all the columns data for those individual rows, as you can see here. Okay, now what happens if I want to actually display this into Excel cells? Excuse me for a second. A shortcut, excuse me. Okay, I apologize for that. I had a tickle in my throat. Anyways, I'm back. But basically, if you select a cell here, okay, there's multiple ways that you could bring back the data, which is an Excel value. You could come up here to the formula bar, or right to the formula bar, click on this down arrow, and as you can see, Python object is selected. If I select Excel value, watch what happens. It brings back the data. You could also come back up here, again, go back to Python object if you want. You could also do it by right-clicking the cell, and now you have this option here called Python output. Again, you could select Excel value. Okay, a shortcut key to this is you could switch between a Python object and an Excel value. Shortcut key is Control Shift Alt P. Actually, Control Shift Alt M switches between Python object and Excel value. Control Shift Alt M brings back the values now. As you can see, it brought back the first 5 rows of our data frame or our Excel data. Okay. Our next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to show you, well, what if in your analysis you just want to display the column headers of this data frame. In order to do that, again, we must enter Python mode equal py is the way you could do it, and then tab into it. Now you could see in the Excel formula bar, you got this Python display here. Now I want to access our data frame. Here I'm referencing the variable that I created for that holds our data frame, df.head. As you can see, IntelliSense kicks in again. The cube icon shows. That means that should be an indication to you. You have to use parentheses to close that out. Control Enter to commit this, and it brings back the Python object. Again, I could go up here, Excel value, and then just a second here. Okay, this is a good thing here. It creates a spill error. The reason why it created a spill error and then you have these dotted lines is basically because I did a data frame.head, which means that I'm redisplaying this data frame up here, which is what I didn't want to do. I mistakenly typed that in, but basically you get a spill error, meaning that whatever the results are of your function, whether it's in Excel or Python, if the data that is supposed to be coming back extends into cells where there's already data blocking it, in this case, I have this text here and stuff like that, you'll get a spill error. Let's go back up here. What I want to do is I just want to display the columns. So I got that. And as you can see in IntelliSense, it displays columns, and then there's a wrench right next to the left of that. That means in this case, I don't have to use the parentheses to close this out. So I'm going to tab over. Now press Control Enter. And as you can see, it brings back all my column headers that you see up here. Okay. So let's go on to the next question here. Now, the next question is I want to ask basically what is the total revenue generated across all orders? Okay, I have a revenue column here. So basically what this question is asking is I want to sum up the revenue column, okay, for all the orders in this data set. So how do I do this in Python? I reference equal ty, tab into that. I want to access the data frame, df, and I want to access the revenue column. In order to do that, you press in the square bracket. You're telling Python basically, I want to pass in a list of the column names that I want to be able to reference. In this case, I'm only referencing one column. So you have to put it in quotes or a single tick and type in revenue because that's the name of my column. And it is case sensitive, so you have to be aware of that. Close that out. Okay. Now I want to close it out with a closing square bracket. Now, what do I want to do with this revenue column? I want to sum up the values of it. So I press dot sum. And as you can see, it has a cube next to it. So I know I have to use the closing parentheses, Control Enter. Again, it brings back an object, but let's display the value. We have hash signs because the column doesn't fit the data that it's returned. So I basically, let's increase the column. So it does that. So that's the value that it returns. Okay. So if you go into our data, select every record within the column, you'll get 32 million. That's the sum of this entire column. So that's what it returns. Let's go on to the next question. How many units were sold for each product? So let's dissect this. How many units? Right there, it tells you that we want to sum up the number of units and that were sold. Okay, so we got a column here that says units sold for each product. So that tells you each product. That means we want to get a sum, okay, for each product, okay, that is recognized in our data set or our data frame. So we want to get a unique list of product names. Once we have that, we want to sum up the number of units that were sold for that particular product. So in order to do that, we want to be able to do in Python a group by. So equal py Python mode. We want to access the data frame dot group by, tab into this, open parens, and what do we want to group by in this case? We want to group by product. So we want to use the product column. Close this out. Okay, once we have the product column segregated into unique products, what do we want to do with it? So we want to access the units sold and sum up the units sold for that particular product. So we access it by opening square bracket, quote, and we want to sum up the units sold. Close that out, and we want to sum that. Okay, close it out, control enter. Brings back a series. In Python, a series is basically a one column that it brings back. So let's click on this first here. Okay, now when I say one column, well, you're thinking, well, I see two columns here. Okay, what Python does, it brings back the index, it brings back both columns, the product and the unit sold, but the first column is considered the index, and the unit sold is considered just one column. So that's what I mean by a series. So now let's display that as an Excel value. Again, let's select it, Python output, Excel value. Okay, so now you have basically the individual products that exist, a unique product list of this data set or data frame, and we summed up the units sold for each product. So let's go up here. Let's format this just a bit. Let's go up to home, and then I want to use the comma separator, and I want to decrease the decimals. Okay. So that's that. So our next question is, which region generated the highest total revenue? So let's scroll down here. Okay. So which region? So right now it's telling us, well, we want to do something with the regions and basically generate the highest total revenue. So this means that we want to sum up the revenue per regions, but we want to get the highest. So that basically we want to be able to display our results in descending order from highest to lowest revenue. So let's go ahead and do that. Equal py, tab into this, and we're going to access our data frame again, dot group by again. And we want to group by the region. We want to get the total revenue per region. Again, this is case sensitive, so it's capital REGION. Close that out. We want to sum this value. Okay, tab into that, close this out. We also want to be able to sort the results. Basically, we want to sort the revenue column from highest to lowest. How do we do that? We use another function called sort values. Okay, sort values. And by default, it's sort, if we don't specify this, by default, it's going to do it in ascending order. So there's a parameter of this, ascending equals, and we want to type in false. Close that out, control enter. Okay, it brought back an error. So let's first, this is what Python does if you have an error of some sort. So let's go over here. So type error. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what I did here. Region, sum, sort values. Okay, region sum. Okay, just a second. Okay, I'm getting this error because I'm trying to sum a particular column. However, I forgot to add in the column name that I want to sum. So I apologize for that, but this gives you an idea of what happens when you enter in some incorrect code, and Python editor will pop up and it will tell you a descriptive error, okay, of what the potential problem is. Okay, so basically what I want to do is right after the group by, I want to access the revenue column, okay, because I want to sum up the revenue column. Okay, now once I do that, I do a dot sum again, and then the rest should be fine. So let's press Control Enter. Okay, it did okay. So let's close out this, and it brought back a series. Again, let's click on this card here. As you can see, it brought back the unique regions, and it summed up the values for each region, the revenue. So now let's go ahead and display it. Control Shift Alt M is another way, and it brought back the revenue. Okay, so now let's go on to our next question here. So let's scroll down. Now, our next one is, what is the average unit price for each product? So again, we want to be able to calculate the unit average, okay, per product. So this means that we want to group by again. So if I do equal py, tab into this, data frame, dot group by, tab into that, what do we want to group by? So we want to group by our product column. Okay, and what do we want to do with that product column? We want to calculate the average unit price. So we have to access the unit price column, and that is unit, P-R-I-C-E. Close that out. And what do we want to do? We want to get the average of that column per product. And the average in Python is the mean function, M-E-A-N. Okay, now press Control Enter. Again, it brings back a series. Right click, Python output, Excel value. Okay, this is the average unit price for this particular product. Okay, our next question is, what is the most common sales channel used? Okay, we have a column here that this particular product was sold through a retail store. This particular product was sold through a distributor. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the unique sales channels and to see which one had the most orders sold through that channel, basically what that is. So we're going to do another group by, equal py, tab into that. We're going to access the data frame, dot group by, tab into that. We're going to group by, not the order ID, but we're going to group by the sales channel. So sales, C-H-A-N-N-E-L. Okay, do that. Tab out of that. Now, what do we want to do? We want to do this, get a count on the order ID. So we're going to access the order ID column. And then we want to count it. So how many orders basically happen per sales channel? So we use the count function. Again, a cube shows up. It tells me I have to use the parens to close, open and close it. Control Enter. Again, it brings back a series because we're bringing back this order ID, the count of order ID per distributor. So what is the most common sale? So let's go ahead and do this. Let's bring back the value. Let's go up here. This is another way to get the Excel value. Now the most common one is, in this case, there's a tie, so 335, both of them are the same. Okay, now let's go on to the next question here. How many orders were placed per month? So again, what we want to do is we want to get a grouping of each month. I have a column over here that's already formatted as, if you look over here, what's order date here. This shows July 2024, so that matches up with this. This third record here is for November 2024. So basically, I have a unique value in this month column that shows the month with just the first three letters and the year. So what we want to do is group by the unique values in this column, and we want to get the number of orders that happen for this particular month. So again, we're going to do a group by the month column. Okay. Let's go equal py, tab into this. We're going to access our data frame by the variable df.groupBy. Okay, again, we want to group by the month column. Close that out. What do we want to do with this? We want to get the number of orders by a unique month. So we're going to access the order ID column. Close that out. And again, what do we want to do? We want to get the number of orders that happen per unique month. So we're going to do a dot count. Close that out. And we could also sort the values, meaning we're going to sort the count number in the month column. So we're going to do a sort values, tab into that, and we want to do a descending order. Control Enter. It brings back a series. Let's click on the card here. You can see it brings back the unique month, a series again. This first column here is considered an index, and this second column is the column that we're going to be looking at, and it brings back the count, the number of orders that happen by this unique month, and it's in descending order. So let's go ahead, Control Shift Alt M, and as you can see, it brings back that. Okay, a few more questions here. Oops, scroll over here. Scroll down. Again, we're going to go over here. Now, what is the total profit for each product? Well, if we look at our data frame, we have a product column, a profit column, and that profit is calculated already for us. So we're going to, we want the profit for each product. Again, we're going to group by our product column, and for each unique product, we want to get the sum up the profit for that product in our data set. So we're going to do this by a group by again. Oh, what am I doing? Equal py, tab into that. Data frame. Okay, dot group by. What are we grouping by? We're going to be grouping by product. And what do we want to do for the unique products? We want to sum up the profit for that product, unique product. So we're going to access the profit column. Close that out, dot sum, okay? Or actually, what is the total profit for each product? Yeah, we want to sum that. And then we also want to sort the values from highest to lowest. Okay, and that's gonna be that ascending, false, control enter. Let's go up here, Excel value. So it brought back the total profit per product and it sorted it by ascending order as you get, descending order. Next question, what is the percentage of total revenue contributed by each region? So this is more involved here. So the percentage, so what we're doing here is we want to be able to group by the region, okay? For each region, we want to sum up the total revenue for that region. Once we get that value, then we need to divide it by the total revenue for this data set. So we already generated the total revenue. So if we scroll back up here, our total revenue for this data set, okay, is 32 million. So we're going to scroll back down here and we're going to access that value that's up in that cell. And you'll see how I do this. Equal PY, tab into that. Okay, we're going to group by region. Okay, and then, okay, and then close that out. We want to access the revenue column to sum it up. Use a closing square bracket. We want to sum those values. We also want to sort the values, okay, in descending order. Okay. So dot sort values. Tab into that. Ascending equal false. Okay. Once we have the sum, okay, of the revenue per region, we want to divide that by the total, okay, total revenue for the entire data frame. So we do that by, let's go back up here. Let's select this cell. And as you can see up in here in the formula bar, it's dividing by the Excel function. Again, if you remember from the beginning, we could do a single cell. So it's referencing the value in this particular cell. So now if I press Control Enter to commit the code, let's scroll back down here. So it brought back a series again. So it brought back the region as the index and the percentage of revenue for that region based upon whatever the total revenue is for all the orders that we have. So let's go ahead and display the Excel value. Right click, Python output, Excel value. And there you have it. It brought back the percentage here. Let's format this to have a couple decimal places. Okay. So that's that. Okay. Our last question here is we're going to create another column up here in our data frame. And the reason why we're doing this is because in order to answer this question, we need to calculate basically the value here. Okay. So the question is, what is the profit margin for each order? So the profit margin is basically taking the profit column, okay, dividing it by the revenue, okay, and that gives you a percentage. So that's what means by profit margin. So we're going to create a new column based upon that formula. How do we do that? Well, we're going to do equal PY, tab into that. We're going to access our data frame, and we're going to access the column that we want. So in this case is we don't have an existing column for this, so we have to create it first. So we're going to call it profit margin, and then close it out, close out the square bracket, and then that's going to equal, okay, our formula. We're going to access the data frame, what column that we want to access. We're going to take the profit column, okay, close that out, and we want to divide the profit by the revenue. So we're going to, again, access our data frame. What column do we want? We're going to pass in the revenue column, close that out. And now this is going to be a multi-statement Python code. So I'm going to go up to the formula bar, press enter, and we want to display the first 5 rows of our data frame now. And you'll see once we display it, it will have created a new column called profit margin. So we're going to do data frame.head. Okay, now control enter to commit that. Again, it brings back a data frame here, object, because that's the default. If I click on this card here, if I scroll all the way over to the right, you'll see a new column here on the right called profit margin. So let's go ahead and display this. Excel value, Control Shift Alt M. And as you can see over here to the right, it created this new profit margin column, which didn't exist up here. Okay. So I hope this tutorial was very useful for you today, especially if you want to start using Python within Excel. Very important stuff, very exciting stuff that's happening here. I love working with this stuff, and I hope you do too as a data analyst. Again, hopefully you learned something new. I'll be doing more tutorials like this in the future, but please subscribe to my channel, and also please like and share this video because this helps this video get out to more people. Again, thank you for your time. I know it was a long video, but again, hopefully it was useful for you and your day-to-day responsibilities as a data analyst. Thanks again. You have a great day, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye now.